8th of October 2023. And this is one of that Warrafak moments, and it is a real Warrafak moment. It's about that fiasco in Israel today. Now, before I'm going to start talking, I want you to listen to this video from Richard Medest. It's just over 3 minutes, but it will be a good thing to listen to what he is saying and just think about what he is saying. He is saying all the things that the Western media will never talk about. Listen to him.
I think a lot of people are finally starting to realize just how dishonest the media are when they talk about what's happening in Palestine as clashes. If these were videos from Ukraine, if they showed Russian soldiers abusing Ukrainians, it would be front page news. You would have no problem looking at that and calling that violence. But because it's happening to Palestinians, oh, now it's a clash. Oh, it's both sides. Look, man, when you have gangs of uniformed thugs draped in riot gear bursting into a mosque and shooting people with tear gas while they're praying, that's not a clash. That's literally the definition of brutality. And this idea that if Palestinians dare to throw a rock in self-defense at somebody that's tear gassing them, that they're somehow equally to blame. I mean, what is this colonial slave mentality? Like, how dare you defend yourself? Accept your oppression, you Arab terrorist. Man, I don't understand people who can sit there and watch an entire people being humiliated, subjugated, and ruthlessly oppressed every day by an occupying military force, and then attribute equal blame to unarmed Palestinian civilians. I mean, how morally bankrupt do you have to be to utter such a thing? Huh? To say that Palestinians living under Israeli occupation are just as guilty as the people colonizing them. And then they sell you this idea, this fairy tale that Israel's a democracy, while they're openly beating journalists, beating medics, beating worshippers, beating women. Where are all the Western feminists? You want to talk about women's rights, but when Palestinian women are being beaten in the street, suddenly you have nothing to say? Look at this Israeli thug swiping his baton on this poor Palestinian woman, breaking her arm for no reason. Where are the champions of women's rights? Where is the outrage in the West? I guess it's her fault for not being born Ukrainian. Maybe if she was Ukrainian instead of Palestinian and Muslim, then people would care. Do you know how insulting that is to go into a holy place while people are praying during Ramadan, beat them up, handcuff them, and just throw them around like sacks of meat? I'm not even Muslim, and I am insulted. I'm offended. And I shudder to think what would happen if Palestinians went into a synagogue and started firing tear gas at people while they're praying. The reaction around the world would be nuclear, and rightfully so. So where's the outrage here? Why the double standard? How can the media see images of this, of Palestinians being handcuffed and thrown around in a place of worship, and all they do is make excuses for Israel? You know, that building, the Aqsa Mosque, has been there for over 1,000 years. Look how they smashed the windows and the doors like it's some used car. And this is the second year in a row that the Israelis have done this. And the last time, a war broke out. You know, Palestinians are living 2-3 generations as refugees on their own land. They have no state, they have no equal rights, no armed forces. And meanwhile, the Israelis have nuclear weapons, an air force, billions of dollars being bankrolled by the Americans, and they have the complete political backing of the Western media. And you call that a level playing field? There is nothing about this that is even remotely comparable. Anybody calling this a clash or going, oh, it's complicated, is either clueless or being dishonest. And the media, they always have these colorful, creative ways to avoid saying that Israel is occupying Palestine. Oh, it's both sides being violent. Oh, there are tensions because it's Easter and Passover and Ramadan coinciding. No. Get one thing straight. There are no tensions between Muslims and Christians and Jews. There are only tensions between colonizers and the colonized. Get that straight.
Now, there's a lot of truth in what he has said there. And I'm quite sure there's a lot of people now listening to this video that has never thought about it like that. And a few months back, it was about last year in July, August, I think, I did a skid mark on the fact that the Israelis were keeping the bodies of the Palestinians that they killed, keeping it in fridges and so, keeping it away from the families so that the families can't bury those people. Now, in that video I said that that is cruel, and if you understand the Muslim religion, it's a major issue for them. But the fact of the matter is, the Palestinians have to deal with that brutality every day of their lives, every day. And I want you to take a look at this map and look carefully and concentrate. If you look at stage 1, the green, that is Palestinian land, and the white is Jewish land. Look carefully there. And then you go to the second map, stage 2, and that was in 1947. Look what happened. And that was not through a war. That was Western countries fabricating that thing. And then look what happened between 1949 and 1967, stage 3. And then you look at the last one in stage 4, that was in 2000, and look what is left of the Palestinian land. Now, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to tell yourself and to understand that what is happening there was totally uncalled for. And for as long as I live, I have always been aware of this thing of the Israelis and the Palestinians. And I didn't understand it properly and so forth. And then there was at a stage, I read some articles in which the guy that wrote the article made statements like that the majority of the Arab nations do not actually recognize the existence of Palestine and things like that. But I must admit, I'm not a specialist on Middle Eastern cultures or Middle Eastern politics or so forth. I just read these things and I say. But something that became clear to me over the past few years is that the Palestinians are forever under pressure. And if you look how the Jews are taking more and more and more of their land, and the way that the people are being, let's call it, expelled from their cultural land and invaded by the Israelis, and how the Palestinian houses are being demolished and their fields are being destroyed and the trees are being chopped down, the fruit trees and the olive trees and things like that. Forever. The Israelis is forever basically terrorizing the Palestinians. They are not in a position that they can live their lives normally and that they can get their economy going because they don't have a government and things like that. They are, I'm out of words. What the basic thing is there, in a strange, weird way, what is happening to the Palestinians is exactly what is being done to the Boer here in South Africa. Same thing. And the thing that actually annoys me is that whenever you start talking Israeli-Palestinian things, there is a group that comes and they pull the Bible out and then they start reading things from the Bible to you. Now, I have a principle, and that is that I don't get into discussions on religion, because the religion is, as far as I'm concerned, a private thing. But the reality is this: a lot of these hypocritical Westerners, they try and justify the brutality of the Israelis by quoting passages out of the Bible. I find that highly annoying. But the reality is, if you look at the Gaza Strip, the thing is about 25 miles long and 5 miles wide. It's the highest, densest populated piece of land basically on the earth. Those people are forever being bombed. And when the Israelis bomb their buildings and bomb their houses and bomb their things, the destruction is terrible. And half of the population of the Gaza Strip is children. Those people cannot have a normal life because every day they're being brutalized by the Israeli soldiers. And then what happened now, I've got a lot of questions about what happened last night and early this morning. A lot of questions, for the simple reason that the Palestinians are basically living in giant internal camps, like prisons. They're surrounded by walls and barbed wire and fences and electronic surveillance like hell. As this one lady said, a cat cannot move across that border and the alarms goes off. What the hell happened there this morning? How did it happen that the Hamas people streamed basically into Israel and nothing, no defense force, no police action, nothing? How the fuck did that happen? That is most probably the best surveillance systems on any border structure in the world. Yet those guys streamed over the borders there and did what they did. I'm not going to discuss what happened. The fact of the matter is, that is a question that you need to ask yourself. How did it happen? How? I have a theory that this thing was planned by the Americans and the Jews. They planned this thing to draw attention away from Ukraine and to give the Americans an off-ramp out of Ukraine. That is my theory. That's my theory. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But there's too many things that happened that is illogical. It doesn't make sense at all. But what is most disturbing to me now is now the Israelis are again bombing the Gaza Strip like hell. And people are being killed. Innocent civilians, women and children. And that is so uncalled for. But where is the Western outcry? Nothing. In the end, it is going to be the Arab nations, the Russians and the Chinese that will have to solve that problem there. The Americans and the Jews could have sorted that friction out a long time ago. And if you look back at this map and look there at stage 2, if at that stage they made a deal and came to the decision that it will be a two-state thing, and that's the end of it. No, no, no. The Jews kept on encroaching on the Palestinian land. And the West, specifically Americans, they financed it. I saw this morning that JFK Kennedy guy that is running for Democrat president. And he made a tweet, and I read that tweet and I thought, what the fuck is this? Everybody, 100% on the side of the Israelis. They've done nothing wrong. I cannot understand how the West can be so hypocritical. And I have to be 100% under control of what I say, because what I'm saying is going against the narrative. But the fact of the matter is, what is being done to the Palestinians is brutal, inhumane, and outright cruel. And then that fucking Zazi stalker of mine, he's got a lot to say about this. And in his mind, the Jews need to wipe all the Palestinians out. Now, that is a guy that whenever we are in a little bit of a discussion, we're never in a debate, because I cannot debate with him, because he doesn't have the intellect to look at facts objectively and consider it and then have an opinion. He cannot do it. It's impossible for him to do that. But the fact of the matter is, what is being done to the Palestinians, if you are a decent human being, you can never condone it. Common decency tells you, you cannot condone that brutality. And as Richard said in that video, there's now 3 generations of Palestinians that grew up under this. Imagine how they experience it. Imagine. I saw videos of people that came from America, Jews from America that moved into houses in the West Bank. And it was previously Palestinian houses. And the Palestinian owner stood in front of the house, and that guy that lived in his house didn't pay attention to what the old man had to say. That is the type of thing that has been going on there. So, on this Sunday night, all I'm asking is look at it objectively. Try and imagine yourself a Palestinian living in Gaza. And try and think how you would respond. Because what is going on there could have been resolved in 1947 already. But the Americans is using that to stir shit in the Middle East. But I am afraid they have now, most probably, overstepped the line. For the simple reason, America is financially basically bankrupt. They make loans from the Chinese to give the money to Ukraine. Now they will make loans from the Chinese to give the money to Israel. The problem is they're out of weapons and they're out of ammunition. And just a few weeks back, they shipped a lot of the 155mm ammunition that was stored in Israel. They shipped that to Ukraine. And here comes the kicker. It comes, and now there's now evidence that weapons that are being used by Hamas against the Israeli soldiers, those weapons comes from the Ukraine. Let that sink in. And they were warned about it. The Arabs warned them and said, you must watch out. You're sending all those weapons into the Ukraine without control. Those weapons are going to be used by terrorist organizations in Europe. Now those things are here. Plus, there's now stories that the Taliban from Afghanistan has been providing American weapons to the Hamas people. Weapons that the Americans left in Afghanistan when they fled out there. So, we must be careful. Something is not making sense in what is happening there in Israel now. But I'm back to my position that the Americans is stirring the shit up there so that they can use that as an excuse to get out of the Ukraine. That is what I think. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. And I want to thank the people that are supporting the channel financially. I really appreciate it because, as you know, the platform has demonetized my thing and I'm struggling. I can't get it monetized. And I've just now been hit again with a strike. So that is off the table. So nobody must have an illusion that I'm making money out of this channel. I'm not making money out of this channel. Whatever I'm getting in is from private people donating and supporting me. Now in the description of the video there is options if you want to support the channel by debit order or by EFT or Bitcoin or Ethereum or a deposit to PayPal. The options is there, and every donation is appreciated. Have a great evening.